Welcome to the third episode of our practice series. In this video, we'll sketch a beautiful tropical villa with stylized architecture, palm trees, and finish it off with some refreshing shadows. Have a seat if you're familiar with Feather but would like some practice. If you're new to the app, we recommend starting with the basic tutorial series. Okay, let's get started. Let's start by drawing the base of the building. Double tap to switch to the perfect side view, then draw a straight 3D guide. Fill a bit more than half of the grid with your drawing. Select the second brush, set the thickness to around 15, and choose a slightly darker blue for the color. Then double tap to switch to the top view. The building we're drawing is a long rectangle, so sketch a shape that's about 4 grids tall and 10 grids wide. Next is the wall of the building. Just like before, start by drawing a guide. We'll draw a recessed wall like one side of a box. After sketching the main curves, duplicate them and draw connecting curves to complete the shape. Use the curves you've already drawn as a reference and create new 3D guides. You can follow the shape of the building by drawing guides first, then adding curves along them. Next, let's draw the balcony. Start by drawing a guide along the sketch you've already made. Then sketch the tightly divided window frames first. After that, select them and move them slightly inward. Use the new position as a reference to draw the sidewall. And erase one of the corner edges. Finally, add a window to one of the walls. All right, let's move on to painting. Before we start painting, let's change the background color to blue. Setting the background first helps us maintain the overall mood while we draw. Create a 3D guide along the wall and paint it using the widest brush. Don't forget to change the color to white in the color panel and switch the material to the second one, shaded. Once the material is set correctly, toggle render mode to start casting shadows on the walls. Then go to the lighting tab and adjust the light color to a slightly bluish tone. Now you'll see a cool blue tint across the whole scene. Paint the rest of the surface as well. For areas where the windows will go later, adjust the brush thickness to leave gaps, as if carving them out. If you're using Pencil Pro, try squeezing before drawing. This lets you switch between free draw and draw shape mode without toggling manually. Once you've painted a good portion, go to the lighting tab and tap Ground Shadow. This will help you better understand the depth and shape of your painting. As you can see in this tutorial, curves in Feather can be edited after you draw them, which means you can speed up your workflow with just a few adjustments. You can tweak the thickness, position, color, or even the brush type of any curve you've drawn. So instead of trying to make the perfect stroke on the first try drawing first and editing afterward. Once you get used to it, your workflow will get surprisingly fast. Next, let's paint the balcony. Draw a guide that sits slightly behind the front wall. Then fill in the color to match the tightly spaced windows. It's okay if the strokes aren't perfect on the first try. You can always select the painted curves and adjust their position, change the color, or tweak the thickness. This way, you can focus on roughing it out first and fine-tune the details later. Okay, let's duplicate the base of the building and finish up by painting the windows. Once you're fully comfortable with Feather, you can sketch the general position of the windows first and adjust everything later. Just draw the initial strokes, then use thickness, color, and copy paste to create the windows on the other side. I'm already loving the contrast between the white and red. Let's move on to the next part. Now let's add some detail to the building. Start by drawing a guide for the railing, then switch to the square brush to create rectangular bars. Draw the top bar first, then draw another guide along the curve you just made to easily sketch the vertical posts. You can draw one railing post and duplicate it, but drawing each one by hand gives it more of a handmade feel. Once the railing is complete, let's draw a sunbed, a must-have for any tropical getaway. The process is similar. Sketch a guide with the proportions of the side view in mind, then draw a wide oval-shaped body, and the legs touching the ground. Place the sunbed where the shadow hits, and you'll see a nice contrast pop out. Let's play with that contrast a bit more. Select the sunbed you just drew, duplicate it downward, and tap the glow material. Lower the opacity to create a soft sunlit shimmer. Let's add some finer details to the building. Draw a guide along the wall and sketch some climbing vines. Use a flat brush, shaded material, and pick a nice shade of green to contrast with the white walls. Adding a bit of curve to the guide makes it feel more realistic. Focus on areas where plants would naturally grow, like near the ground or along corners of the building. Next, let's move on to curve drawing. Unlike the basic sketch we did earlier, this step adds detailed expression to your 3D drawing. We'll also use a more unique brush for this. Under the material section in the color wheel, tap Pattern and select the last one in the list. This creates a randomized dot pattern. Use the bottom slider to brighten the pattern and give the brush a grainy, pencil-like texture. With this brush, we'll now add curves to the building. The way you draw these lines can completely change the mood of the artwork. Start by tracing the outer edges of the building. Don't make the lines perfectly straight. Try breaking them up slightly to give it a loose, hand-drawn feel. Depending on your taste, you can also add subtle lines to the walls to make them feel more textured. And don't forget to add detail to the windows and balcony. This technique is especially helpful for quickly expressing overlapping trees or complex shapes. It saves time and adds richness to the drawing. It still doesn't feel quite like a seaside villa, does it? Let's add some palm trees and cast their beautiful leaf-shaped shadows onto the building. Start by sketching some rough shapes to decide where the trees will go. Go ahead and paint a simple base for the palm tree trunk. Let's go with a slightly reddish tone for this one. Then we'll begin with the palm leaves. Turn on Stable Stroke to draw smooth curves, and use the flat brush to sketch out the structure of each leaf. Here's a tip. Let the leaves overlap slightly. Then, change the color of each curve just a bit. This will create a painted texture effect. When adjusting the colors, try to keep the same brightness and saturation, and only shift the hue. This method gives a much more natural and visually rich result. Great! Once the leaves are done, select them and duplicate symmetrically. The reference point for mirroring is the center of the screen, so make sure to adjust the camera properly before duplicating. Now copy and paste and arrange all the leaves to form the full shape of the palm tree. You can use scale or liquify to adjust the shape. Keep an eye on the shadows cast on the building and tweak the palm shape as needed. Use liquify to gently stretch and adjust the mirrored palm leaves, making them look more natural. The rest is simple. Just copy the palm tree you've already drawn, paste it, and adjust the size as you place them. Fill in the empty spaces. And if you'd like, you can redraw just the leaves while keeping the parts you need. Even with the same method, giving each tree a slightly different shape makes the scene feel much richer. Lastly, let's draw the terrain. Imagine a coastal cliff and sketch it in. There are many ways to approach this, but using a method that blends gently with the background works best. That way, you can suggest the shape without having to draw too much detail. For this kind of cliff terrain, try using 3D guides more creatively. Think about the angles where the cliff face bends, and draw your guides accordingly. This will help the curves you draw on top appear more three-dimensional. For example, from the top view, you can draw a 3D guide along the edge of the cliff, then bend it using the Band 3D guide. Just a slight adjustment will give you a perfect guide for painting the cliff. Let's wrap up this practice by introducing a new feature in the latest version. Trees and terrain are perfect for reuse. Once you've drawn them, you can export them as a feather file and import them into other notes later. In the Resource tab, tap Import and bring in the note you exported earlier. Imported notes keep their original scale and group structure, so it's easy to blend them in. Head to the Lighting tab and adjust the light angle to see if the shadows fall just the way you want. And it's done. Thank you for joining this long journey with us. We hope you enjoyed getting used to Feather and learning how to sketch in 3D. Don't forget to subscribe for the next episode. See you next time.